What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of You Can't Make This BS Up. This is your host, Joel Davis. We are back once again trying to get everybody acclimated on this next episode, which we'll be discussing and continuing where we left off about, you guessed it, Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins. Okay, if you don't know who he is, you will have to go to part 1 to get more of an understanding. But I will do a recap in a few moments. First off, today's episode is basically going to be sponsored by my guy here, which is Jack Juliet. He is the founder of the daily newsletter Podcast.Today. They are fantastic at giving you information on the latest podcast that's out. Not only just true crime, anything that you into from the health sector, relationships, medical standpoint, all of the things that you look at on a podcast, they are the one that keeps everybody informed what is great out there. Please believe I looked at it. I was very much impressed by it, and I definitely would tell you as my fans to check it out as well. You'll be surprised of other podcasts that you may also be interested in. Now, moving on from that, I want everyone to know there are some news that we got for the podcast. Those news is as follows. We do have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. Yeah, hold your applause. Hold your applause. Thank you. It's been in the works for a while. I was talking to more people in the niche of this whole podcast game. They've been trying to tell me, if you want to have somewhere for the fans just to talk with you, besides just the social media accounts, you may need to focus on Facebook, because a lot of true crime people do go to Facebook in these groups and talk. So we do have a You Can't Make This BS Up Facebook group. I'm the only one in it right now. Hopefully we can grow it. That's why I'm telling you guys to check it out. Also the page, You Can't Make This BS Up on Facebook. Also will be posting new material, decent on recent cases that has made headlines on the news. People can just talk about it. And also too, if you have any information that needs to be spread out there for a missing kid, or even a case where justice is not coming fast enough on a case, come on over to my group and we will post it. We will do everything we can to make sure people will share it. It is a public group, so that gives everyone no excuses to say, hey, I came by the group and nobody didn't add me. Just come on through, man. Public group, check it out. We will even do it international missing people. I mean, that's just what we're about. We're trying to make this a global podcast. Now, again, please, guys, if you like my show, please rate it 5 stars. It helps us be more noticeable. If you don't like the show, don't even leave a comment. Don't even rate it, because that's not even going to help me at all. But if you do like the show and you are binging on it, you're driving around 5, 6, 7 hours listening to all these cases that I am slowly building and putting together, please do it. Also, check out my YouTube channel, You Can't Make This BS Up, because on there's a little bit extra stuff besides just this on the podcast. There are also quick stories that comes up that no one knows about and things of that nature. So with that being stated, let's jump into the rest of part 2. This is going to be a mini series. I don't know how many parts I'm going to have of this, but I just know that this guy's story is long. You just cannot do this story in a one take without not giving it justice, because you want to give all the details of what he went through, and you can't give it justice doing it that way. So this is part 2 of Donald Henry Pee Wee Gaskins, the meanest man in the U.S. So if you have not seen part 1, I will do a fresh recap, current recap of part 1. So part 1, we have noticed how Pee Wee Gaskins grown up in the state of in the state of South Carolina City, Florence, South Carolina, Florence County. Now, I've told you that this county is, back in the day, was Florence was always a nice sized town, slowly growing, slowly building itself up. While he was in Florence County, he was known to, as a kid, he said that he was abused. And by the way, trigger warning, there is a lot of SSA and grape involved in this. I have to say it this way. So viewer discretion is advised. All right. So I have to say it that way, so that way you guys will know what's going on. So if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, you may not want your children to listen to it, or you may want to keep it in your ears. But anyway, he said that he was SA'd as a child. But there's a lot of people that know his family personally said that was a lie, that actually Pee Wee Gaskins had the best upbringing for that time that any kid could wish for, that his mother did not spank him, and actually he was spoiled. Now, we also talked about Pee Wee Gaskins is not a big guy. So you may think that someone nicknamed Pee Wee, you would think that it'll be like some big, swole guy that's about 6'6" and 200 plus pounds. No, Pee Wee Gaskins is nowhere near that. He is on record, and I'm going by what I have researched and what has been consistently brought up. He was about 5'2", and his weight was between 125 to 145 pounds soaking wet. He was a small man. Now, I know you're asking yourselves, well, how can this small man create so much chaos as being a serial killer? Well, we will talk about that later as you go on into the story. But right now, we are to the part now that Pee Wee Gaskins is currently now in jail. Okay? He's in jail. And he has gotten word that his adorable wife, Mary, is wanting a divorce. She's just tired of Pee Wee's antics. She's tired of going back and forth to try to take up for him in the situation when he goes to prison. She wants to be free. She wants to be free. Yeah, that's where she at. She just wants to be free. She's tired of it. Now, Pee Wee doesn't like that type of situation, because Pee Wee likes to be in, and being in control. He wants to be the one that says, I'm going to end this, not you. So I need to get home. So you would ask yourself, well, how did Pee Wee decide to get home? Well, Pee Wee knew that there was some guys at the trash compactor of the prison that he worked at. And give me 1 second here to show y'all a picture of old Pee Wee, my man's old Pee Wee Gaskins. All right. So we got that up and running. So Pee Wee was like, I know what I can do. I can talk to these guys and get them to help me get out of this place. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, hey, man, you know me. Now I'm a power man. Now he calls himself a power man because back then, I guess that's what shot callers was called in Pee Wee's era in the 60s, in the early 50s at this time. So he tells them, hey, man, I done so much for y'all. I looked out for y'all. It's time for y'all to look out for me. So basically, this is in the late 50s. So they're like, yeah, sure, Pee Wee, we got you, man. What you need? And he was like, listen, man, I need you to make sure that y'all can get me into that garbage can now. And let me tell you how Pee Wee talk real slow. They make sure you get me in that garbage can and make sure that I can get loaded out so they won't find me. So they were like, yeah, sure, man, we can do that. You Pee Wee, baby, we got you. So Pee Wee goes and get in this trash can and hide. Now, I want y'all to know that in this trash can, you can imagine how disgusting it stinks in there. You got all this rubbish from the kitchen, all this garbage, but he's in this trash can, covered, stuck, hidden. Now, here's the thing about the guards. They don't check the trash cans because, for one, the trash cans were ridiculously small. We're talking about a trash can that maybe 4 foot, a little over 4 feet, or right at 4 feet. So you would think in your mind, ain't no way somebody gonna be able to fit in that type of trash can and get out. Because the average man back then was probably about, like now, 5'10", 5'11". So that's gonna be hard for someone that ain't that tall to try to hide in those small garbage cans. So they're like, yeah, that's why they don't even check it. So anyway, my man's getting this trash can. He waits for them to load him into the back of the prison truck, into the truck, and before you know it, he is whisked off. Now, when he gets to the destination of where this truck is at, right, he's able to hop off the truck. Now, you would think that he did all of this. It's going to be like a fairy tale, right? He's going to go and be like, all right, I done came here now. I'm going to go to Mary and I'm going to tell Mary that it's time for her to get her mind right and be with me. That's not how that went. By the time Pee Wee Gaskins gets to the location that he is at with that truck, he says to himself, I don't think it's a good idea to go to Mary right now because she wants a divorce and I'm on the run and she might just turn me in. So I think the best thing I need to do is get on the carnival. And that's what he did. Now, when Pee Wee was on the carnival, he was the guy that would set up the tents. They call it aroused. But he also got trained to be able to help out with the Ferris wheel. And what does they call that thing? The Ferris wheel, and back then they call it the octopus ride, which is the ride that got all the stretched out with the strings, and you got that one centerpiece, and it's stretched out with the strings, and it's got everybody in a bucket, and it goes round and round and round and round and round. So yeah, he was in charge of that too, because 9 times out of 10, the owner and the / worker that's supposed to operate those things would be too drunk. So yeah, that was his thing. Now, while he's in there, Pee Wee, y'all remember now, Pee Wee might be small, but Pee Wee had the gift of gab when it came to women. And he knew how to get him a woman. That was no problem for Pee Wee. And at this time, Pee Wee had his eye on one particular woman. And while he had his eye on that one particular woman, he also learned a new trait. He learned that he could strip and steal cars. That's right. If you don't know what that means he could be able to steal the car, strip off the parts that need to be taken off the car and sell it or whatever, and do the process again. So people were feeling good about himself. He was like, shit, man, life is good. You know, I'm in the carnival. I'm doing criminal activities, making money on the side. Got a little honey that I got my eye on. Yeah, things good, man. I can't complain right now. Now, he also had a business partner, a mentor and partners in the business of helping him steal these cars. and it was a husband and wife duo. And they also ran what you call the girly show. All right. And when you talk about the girly show, that's basically like back in the day where the women would, do their little dances, wear their little sexy little skippy stuff, which would turn in today being the strippers. But that's another story. I digress. All right. So, like I said before, he still got his eye on this woman. And the woman he got his eye on was named Junie Alice Holden. He saw her, he was like, I gotta have her. But then again, and he got with the woman. That marriage only lasts 3 weeks because Pee Wee got bored and he wanted to return to the carnival. Now, side note, Pee Wee will tell you that in these relationships, he was experiencing something called a bothersome, aka he gets the urge that he wants to do crime or hurt people. He don't want to take it out on the people that he dealing with or he love. He will just go and leave and just don't come back to him. Or if he do come back to him, he makes sure he got it all out of his system. But most of the time when it came to the women, he just didn't come back to him. He just went and did his thing. Now, while that is going on, he meets another woman. This woman is named Betty Jean Gates. That's right, Betty Jean Gates. And let me tell you, any woman named Betty Jean is usually a mean-ass woman. So either that, they are damn got a gift for gab. But anyway, she was a contortionist. Now, you don't know what a contortionist is. These are women or men that perform in the carnivals or circus, and they can contort their body to fit into anything, super small, super tight. They're really good at doing those type of performances because of how their body is so limber. But she went by the stage name Xena from Zanzibar. Now, this is not spelled with a Z. It's spelled with an X. And it's actually from a town from South Carolina. And anyway, as soon as Pee Wee gets this relationship going with the Xena female from Zanzibar, whose real name is Betty Jean, she decided that she is going to hustle Pee Wee. Now, she decided to tell Pee Wee that she needed some money to get her brother out of jail in Tennessee. And, she probably told him a sad story, like, my brother gonna need to be in jail. I love my brother so much. I mean, this is family. And, back then, that's what a lot of women love to say. Pee Wee was like, say less, baby. Let's go to Tennessee. Let's get your brother out of jail. Okay? Let's get that bail money and go. And get him out. So, Pee Wee, all in love, ain't even thinking anything, checking out anything. He is on the road to head to Tennessee. Now, when they get to Tennessee, Xena explained that she couldn't go to the jail herself because right now, currently, she got a warrant out for her arrest for forgery and larceny in Tennessee. And not to mention, she's an accessory to an armed robbery in West Virginia and a grand theft auto warrant that they looking for her in Kentucky. And she also got burglary charges in Virginia and armed assault in Ohio. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know if that turned Pee Wee on more because she was a bad girl, or Pee Wee should have just stopped for a minute and say, wait a minute here now. I'm all the way getting your brother out of jail And I'm in towns where your ass is wanted, and I'm also ran away, and I know I'm hot. I don't think this gonna work out. I think that he should have said, baby, we gotta abort this mission. We gotta go back to the carnival. This ain't gonna work. But anyway, thinking probably with his little head downstairs and everything else, and seeing this woman being a contortionist, and I'm quite sure she has done some extraordinary intimate stuff to Pee Wee Gaskins that he ain't never even seen. He decided and tell her, okay, don't worry about it. I'll go down into the jail and I'll go handle it. So he go. He pays the bail. Now, as he's paying the bail, he's also was given a task by his sweet love Zena, aka Betty Jean. She want him to deliver the carton of cigarettes to hold her brother over until he was able to actually see that the post of the bill has gone through. So, Pee Wee took that money and the cigarettes and did as he was told, But there's a plot twist to this shit. That man that he trying to bail out is nowhere near Betty Jean's brother. It is Betty Jean's husband. Hot dog. And then hidden inside that package of cigarettes packs, and inside of the cigarette box, one of those cigarette packs got a razor. And so, by the way, by the time Pee Wee got back to the hotel from this visit, the husband already done used that razor to escape. Zena out here on the low where nobody can see her or Pee Wee Gaskins at the time, stole the car that Pee Wee drove up to to Tennessee, bust my man out of the jail, got him in the car, and well, that's one problem. Before they were able to pull off, the police were waiting. Man, and when that happens, not only did she done stole the car and everything else, she ratted out, I'm quite sure, about Pee Wee was the one that stole that car that she was hopped in driving in, even though trying to get her so-called brother, aka husband, out of prison. So all of a sudden, Pee Wee find himself arrested, and they were like, "Oh yeah, by the way, player, since you went through state lines with this vehicle, that is considered a federal crime." Now, I want to tell y'all a side note back in the day. Back in the day, feds always took a stab at their cases immediately. They would not let the state get any kind of dibs on it. They wouldn't even let them help them consult. Well, in few episodes, on few scenarios, but usually the feds is all on it. So because of this, Pee Wee goes straight to a federal prison in Atlanta. Now, one thing he said about being in federal prison, that it was way more easier than the state prison. And he really loved it. And not to mention, too, he said that he became friends with a group of guys he called the Wise Men. But also, while he was in federal prison, Pee Wee gained a lot of respect with the people he associated with and things of that nature. And not to mention, too, he was able to be around the likes of real big time bosses as well that were in the mafia area. And I'm about to talk about that in a few moments. Second here. So, one moment here, guys. So anyway, while he's in there, one thing that he has got acquainted with is the New York Mafia boss, Frank Costello. All right, aka the Prime Minister. And the reason why they call him that because he basically ran New York in the mafia underworld very diplomatically, and he also was no one to mess with. When he came after you, when he laid down the law, he came after you. Now, the reason why this was in the mid-50s when Costello got picked up for tax evasion charges. Now, I want y'all to understand, in the 1950s, they did not have RICO laws for organized crime for the mafia. That didn't come until like literally the 70s and 80s. The reason why they could get these guys with no RICO or didn't think of RICO, the only thing they could really hammer these guys on was with taxes, tax evasion, because they know these guys had a lot of money coming in illegally and rackets and stuff like that. And they know these guys couldn't hide that money legitimately, because 9 times out of 10, I would doubt that these guys had the knowledge back then to do something like that. But that's how they got caught up. It was the tax evasion. So every time you turn around, that's how they would get them back in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, so and so is busted today, tax evasion. So they'll do their little time and go right back out. But anyway, while he's in this Atlanta prison and everything, Pee Wee said that his reputation of being in the state prison in the Carolinas and doing all the things he was doing and the antics he had going on, always escaping and coming back, escaping, it had done traveled to Georgia, the next state over, you know what I'm saying? And over there, the crime bosses was looking at him like a hero, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, man, we really like how you work. Now, when he said he shook Costello's hand, he said, you have a little hatchet, man. And that was his reputation. That was his nickname. They call him the Hatchet Man, you know what I mean? But anyway, I don't know. When I heard this story, I'm a little suspect, because y'all know in the first story we talked about how he tried to murder a girl with the hatchet. And we know the mafia was real big on you don't hurt women and children. You're supposed to come after only the men when you doing battle or doing hits. So it's kind of hard for me to kind of believe that Costello would be comfortable with dealing with someone like Pee Wee Gaskins in that offense. I mean, that's just me personally, because like I said, these guys are really the last Cosa Nostra. If you never heard of that, they very strict on their principles, and that made principles about touching women and killing them or trying to kill them for no reason. They don't believe in that. But we'll continue on. But this also information on his book, The Final Truth, that a lot of this came out of. So anyway, everybody's starting to think, in the book, that when he said the group of wise men, he was really talking about the Italian mobsters, which were wise guys, when he called them the 3 wise men. But anyway, Pee Wee talked about that they would pick his brain, kind of like how to get rid of a body, because y'all got to remember that this is how Pee Wee was known for further on into these stories. And he really knew how to make bodies disappear, especially because there was a lot of swamp area in Florence County, even to this day, still in the South Carolina area. Now, Pee Wee said that 2 months after Costello and his men were released from prison, Pee Wee got a package in the mail with an English to Italian to English dictionary, $300, in an address in New York City on Elizabeth Street, aka Lily. Now, I do believe he got a care package from the mafia, but it was like to come to show up. But anyway, I really think that Pee Wee might have associated with these guys, and they probably did kind of know about his background and everything else. But I really don't think that they offered him a job. I really don't. Y'all give me one quick second. Hold on for a second. I gotta pull something up. All right, let me continue here. Sorry, I had to pull up this rest of this the script. So anyway, now Pee Wee said he never made it up there to New York City for the offer that they gave him. But he did say in his book that he wondered how different his life would have turned out if he would have took them up their offer and gone to New York and worked for them. But again, I really don't believe this would have actually happened. I don't think that, here's the thing. Pee Wee Gaskins had a learning disability when it comes to, talking and blending with people, right? But at the same time, he would have went to New York and he would have tried to do some of the things that he was trying to do in South Carolina. I don't think Pee Wee would have lasted. Not to mention, too, over there, you got those guys believe in structure. And we already know that Pee Wee do not like to follow anybody's structure. And he likes to go out on the beat of his own drum. I think he would have been a cannon. And I said back then, I don't think Pee Wee would have lasted not even 2 months before somebody would have took him out. Cause y'all remember now, Pee Wee would have went to New York and did what they said. Let's say he would have did this in the 60s, right? And I'm just saying this before I get back to the main part of the story. You got to remember too, you had upcoming guys in that time frame too, like Robert Kuklinski, the Iceman, Robert Kuklinski. I mean, think about the big old Iceman would have been told that he had to get rid of Pee Wee Gaskins. Pee Wee wouldn't stand a chance with Robert Kuklinski. Robert would have went and would have sized that guy up. He would have went and purposely would have put something to where he would have took Pee Wee out before Pee Wee would even knew what was going on. So I don't think that they were really going to recruit him for anything. If they did invite him to come up, he would have been more like a crash dummy, like a peon. You know what I'm saying? Because he's not full Italian and they're not going to make him a made man. So yeah, I just don't see it. But anyway, getting back to the rest of the story. So after the mobsters left, Pee Wee time in prison, he said passed uneventfully until he was released in 1961. And upon release, he rented a trailer from his uncle Dewey Perry. And he lived with his cousin Marvin Perry. So Pee Wee appeared respectable as he was out on parole. Now he got a job with a traveling preacher named Reverend George E. Todd. Now please keep that in mind. Now he was like the personal driver for Reverend Todd. You know what I'm saying? And he used his skills that he learned in the carnival to set up the revival tents. And when he did set that up, while setting those revival tents and stuff up, you would think that Pee Wee would be around the Reverend, maybe trying to better himself so he can not go back to prison or do any kind of mischief and just behave on parole. We talking about Pee Wee Gaskins? Hell nah, Pee Wee ain't doing that. Pee Wee was like, yo, this the time now. I go out here and rob these houses. It's a small town. Everybody is trying to serve God. Y'all, my dogs are barking. Who's out there? And what is that on my door? Man. All right, guys, I am so sorry. I had someone come in, and I'm not unediting any of this because I'm just like everybody else in America. I have a busy family sometimes. So the show must go on. So anyway, during this time, you got Pee Wee just looking for the opportunity to rob the hell out of these people. So anyway, at this point, Pee Wee about 28 years old. And he walking around with his Reverend. He got these robes on and all this good shit. He looking like an altar boy or maybe a protege for the Reverend Todd with this small frame size, but that's just how Pee Wee was playing the game. Now, here's some other things that happened. In 1962, Pee Wee married his third wife, Jerry Dolores. But he did not have quite the same passion for her as he had for the previous two. But Pee Wee said that besides that, she was gorgeous. She was fine as hell to him. Better looking than other women he had. So, anyway, he robbing these houses. And in about a year, Pee Wee decided to once again upgrade his fuckery. And this one again gonna send him back to prison. So one day, you got Pee Wee visiting his mother. He stayed at home while she and his wife went shopping. After they left, Pee Wee decided almost on a predatory type of search to get in some bullshit. So he go visit the 12-year-old girl next door, who he knew was at home alone. Now, this is about to be graphic again, trigger warning. This young lady was raped by Pee Wee in her own bedroom. Now, when he was caught and arrested the same day, after the stepfather turned his ass in as fast as he could, and he knew it was Pee Wee, they got Pee Wee. So during that time, Pee Wee, he waited to be processed. This joker jumped out of an open window about 3 stories up and ran away. So anyway, he on the run again. So the reason why he didn't hurt himself jumping 3 stories high, because first of all, Pee Wee was small. Second of all, the way he jumped at from the processing of where this of the police station where he was at, or the jailhouse or wherever he was at, the bush was so large, and him being so small basically broke a lot of the momentum or absorbed the momentum of the actual jump. So anyway, Pee Wee head over to South Carolina border. By the way, on the stolen 1962 Ford Galaxy that he actually stole out the parking lot. So anyway, he heads over to the South Carolina border, to the North Carolina area, where he heads to the Lumbee Reservation. Now, let me tell you about the Lumbee Reservation if you haven't heard of it. The Lumbee Tribe Indians are in Robertson County and Scotland County of North Carolina. Most of the time, you can find them in the following cities. You can find them in, I want to say Maxwell. I may be wrong, Maxine, North Carolina. I may be wrong. I know they're in Lumberton, North Carolina. I know they're also in Fayetteville, North Carolina. These people skin are almost like bronze. And the women that are on the Lumbee tribe are most of them I've ever came across the scene are very gorgeous looking women. I'm being dead serious. In the face, they're very gorgeous women. Some even have a nice figure if you into that type of exotic woman. Now, when he made it over there, he found him his exotic woman named Lanny Oxendine. Another side note to this. The Lumbee tribe, most of them are going to be named two last names that are real major in the Lumbee tribe. That is Locklear and Oxendine. So if you hear anyone says, I'm an Oxendine or I'm a Locklear and I'm from Lumberton, North Carolina, yeah, they're Lumbee. But I tell you what, you need to check out their Lumbee tribe events because, boy, when you go on the reservation, they have those special events. It's lit. That food and that barbecue is lit. All right, let me keep on going. So anyway, this once again, the 5'2" Casanova done got her all in love. You know what I'm saying? And you know, she really liked what she saw. She really did. She really liked what she saw, and she knew that, you know, this I could work with this Pee Wee guy. You know what I mean? So anyway, once again, this marriage, I don't know what it is about him in the 3 weeks or the 3 months. This marriage only lasts 3 months. And then Pee Wee like, hey, listen, baby, you know, I gotta go. I'm going to the store and I'll be right back. But now he says he does this because he got this heavy burden, this bothersome that's stirring around inside of him. It seems to be coming from often the older that he said he got. And he didn't know how to deal with it. So that's why he would leave. That's why he didn't want to hurt nobody. So anyway, again, I got dogs barking in the background, guys. So him being a full-time criminal, and him always disappearing was just his MO. Now, here's some other things about Pee Wee that nobody doesn't know about. Some more tales before we proceed on that y'all need to know about. Pee Wee did not drink at all. He loved hanging out on honky tonks because I guess he just like looking at the chaos. So, also too, another thing about Pee Wee is that he was more than just a mass murderer or a serial killer, but he more like a guy that murdered for convenience. There's always an angle for him. It's either the angle to either satisfy the urge or he's scared that someone's going to do something, know too much, and it could send him back to going behind bars. And you will understand this when I'm going to try to put links in the description when Pee Wee gave his interview on The Final Truth in 1989 and 1990. And the baby on the behavioral science unit from the FBI and serial killers in general. And then not to mention too, you gotta look at, he also had a very special interview with Donahue. Now, if you don't know who Donahue is, you kids that's way, way young, you Gen Z kids, Donahue was real big for us Gen Xers and millennials. Before you had Jerry Springer, Maury Povey, you had Donahue, and you also had Oh my God. The other guy that just gets on my nerves. Man, oh man. He a Spanish guy. I forgot what his name, but I know he was on with, jump in the comment section. Y'all remember the guy, the Spanish guy that used to be a lawyer and he had his own show. I want to say Gerardo. I might be right. Might be Gerardo. But anyway, yeah. Those guys were the one that was in the running along with Oprah Winfrey. Those was the three main guys that was on there before Montel and all them started joining the clique. But he also would say in the final truth about what it takes to take a life. He said, get in the guts and balls to kill someone just to pleasure yourself is the only difficult part. Once you've done the first and come to know that real special feeling, you can't hardly wait till another better idea comes and leads and pulls and pushes you into what takes you up into another place and even higher than you ever been before. So basically, if you hear that response, it's like a drug addict, like a crackhead or even someone that's strung out on methamphetamines or heroin, chasing that first high. They get that first high off of doing something and they just addicted to it. They chasing that high. They want that first one they ever got. And that's what it seems like here when he talks about murder. What Pee-wee was really talking about also too is the concept of escalation that pushes you to commit that official awful crime of murder, because once you do it, that's what happens. Now, here's another thing that we talk about. The next phase of what Pee Wee Gaskin does, and he called it the coastal kills. So after Pee Wee was eventually rearrested because his fourth wife decided to turn him in, when she found out all the stuff that he had done. Now, this is the Lumbee chick. She was like, yo, I can't. And he should have known that that wasn't going to sit well with a woman that's a Lumbee, part of the Lumbee tribe. They all about honor. And they all about doing, not hurting people and things of that nature. So anyway, he winds up going back to state prison. And let me tell you, he finds out that the state prison isn't what it was when he was back there back like 10 plus years ago. Ain't no such thing as Power Man anymore. They go by what your nickname is, player. And so since Pee Wee had this nickname, that means you had a reputation. So that's how that was. He said, once again, he in prison. He didn't like it in there. It was very boring, basically. And not to mention, too, he had already killed a man in there named Hazel Bazell. And so, he just felt like, okay, this ain't nothing challenging. But let me tell you, while Pee Wee was born, he was a model prisoner. He was so much of a model prisoner that the warden took time and wrote a recommendation that Pee Wee needs to be back into the free world and he could be absolutely productive. Isn't that hilarious, ain't it? So anyway, 1968, he's 35 now. Pee Wee was back on the streets of South Carolina. Now, during the day, Pee Wee got another job working as a roofer. Fixing on roofs, smiling, talking to people. Yeah. But when it came to nighttime, Pee Wee Gaskins was a thief, baby. I'm talking about he's stealing cars and he's stripping them down because that's what he know to do. But he had that thing that he called the bothersomeness, aka that urge it is growing strong. I mean, he said it was so massive, it's rolling around in his gut, up to his spine, and his head down again. He said sometimes he'll hurt to his balls behind his eyes. Yeah, it don't seem like to me, buddy. That sound like to me that ain't no urge. That's more like evil inside of you telling you that it's time to go to work, player. That's what that is. That ain't nothing. Nothing medical can fix that shit. So anyway, he was also, just dealing with this urge. So with the coastal kills, as Pee Wee called them, began, but we go into depth about this. People say there is still no confirmation that these coastal kills ever existed. But then again, just because you can't confirm it, I wouldn't say it's not true. Because you're dealing with someone like Pee Wee Gaskins. You can't put nothing past him. All right, guys, give me one moment here. I will return short. All righty. So again, that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of writers have said that they had talked about these murders based upon what Pee Wee had said, but they didn't have no facts to back it. And I'm just going to tell you like this. I'm going to tell you there's no facts to back it, but I'm not going to say that it's not true. Because you got to remember, Pee Wee Gaskins had a lot of time on his hands. And him traveling back and forth and leaving the house and not coming back between spouses and other family members that he was dealing with, other women he was dealing with, yeah, I would not put it past him. Now, all Pee Wee wanted everybody to know and wanted out of all of this in his legacy is to be known as one of the meanest men in the history of the U.S. And he actually pulled it off based upon the things he did. And that's why he made sure that that book was released the way it was. And a lot of people think that he released the book after his death because not only he didn't want to be questioned about all the things that he stated in that book and crimes he was involved, he didn't want to look like he was not credible. But I don't think that's what it was. I think that the reason why, me personally, think that he released that book after his death, which is spoiler alert, he does get executed. He does this because he wanted to create that I'm still here beyond the grave effect. That's what I personally think. I think that he wouldn't have cared he got interviewed because he could easily shut down the interview if that was what he's afraid of. Now, Pee Wee said that this bothersome when it came to being a coastal killer, that he left his house to prevent him from hurting any body in his family. And he would, now I want y'all to understand too, during this phase when he had got out this last time here, that he had acquired a lot of families, or I would say women that he was dealing with. And the women that he was dealing with on and off the record, he was known to spend time with that family and be at peace. He wasn't trying to hurt nobody or think like that. He was just literally enjoying his family. But anyway, Pee Wee would drive by himself up and down the Carolina coast on U.S. Highway 17. That's from Wilmington, North Carolina to Charleston, South Carolina. And it would also can lead you into the Grand Strand of South Carolina going into towards Myrtle Beach. Then he started picking up hitchhikers. And that was really well known back in the late 60s, all the way up into the 70s. Now, I know you guys are going to ask before side note, and I got to answer that. Well, why the hell did people hitchhike back in the 60s and all the way up into the late 70s and possibly early 80s? It was a different time back then. Everybody wanted to hitchhike. Now, most of the time, it was white Americans, what I've researched to find out, that would hitchhike and get where they needed to go. But most of the time, the people that they hitchhike with would, get to the location, drop you off, wish you on your way. It was like a rite of passage. A lot of kids would run home and pack their bags and, oh yeah, can I catch a ride with you? And they catch a ride with this person drop them off. And sometimes you spark lifelong friendships. Person might say, hey, I'm in town. You need anything, I got you. Man, I'm yawning now. But anyway, he said that he would, and this is a trigger warning again, viewer's discretion is advised. He would masturbate while he thought about hanging all the girls that would say no to him upside down by their feet and whipping them, just like they had been done to him when he was a kid. Now, we talked about the whipping he got, and that was for doing what he did with the young girls. But that's another story in part 1. I don't want to spoil part 1. But anyway, but what really stopped Pee Wee every time from doing that was the threat of prison. If the women went to the police afterwards, but one day a realization hit him, what he actually called his quote-unquote miracle. Pee Wee said that he took off to Myrtle Beach one Sunday in 1969 when the pain, again, talking about that urge, it's so aggressive. Now, Pee Wee said on that day he picked up a girl, gave her the same proposition of money for sex, and once again the answer came back as no. So Pee Wee said, fine, but I got to turn down this dirt road first to drop you off. And Pee Wee said he pulled over, stared at her, and had his moment of realization. He said, quote, what I had to do was kill her. I remember smiling to myself and wondered why I never thought of that before. So when she reached down to get her duffel bag, Pee Wee said he punched her in the side of the head 3 times. And when she was out, he took off her belt and tied her hands around her back. And here is where, let me see here. And here's where we have you like shook. So anyway, he would talk about how it was hard for him to sleep and everything else. So for the next week and a half, to be able to get himself able to sleep, and again, trigger warning, this is graphic. Viewer discretion is advised. So anyway, to get himself to sleep, he got her outside the truck and on the ground. And when she woke up, he said he sliced one of her nipples off, but it put it between his front teeth and smiled at her. And when she screamed, he said he shoved it in her mouth and made her eat it. Oh my God. And then he said that he put her back in the truck and drove down to a marsh, brought her back out, bent her over, and he shoved an 11-inch blade into her vaginal area and sliced up. And he said she still survived. Then he said he chained her to a pine limb with a heavy logging chain, dropped her into the water with the pulley, and watched as the bubbles no longer rose to the surface. And that's really the only way where it does sound very true, because they were stripping. There is something in the motion and with the peeling, the pulling, the chain that he had done again and again. And I don't think whether or not he then made up and like just crazy. Now he said he drove away, stopped at a truck's cafe, had the biggest steak on the menu, and drove all the way home that very night, playing the radio as loud as he could and singing along with the whole time. Well, I think it was actually a big steak. So anyway, at this time, Pee Wee said, now let's start with one of the big problems in this. So again, he talks about, get back to what he said about this by his actions on the podcast, on the book, that he had 100+ victims. Right there, he claims he said he picked up all the victims on the Carolina coast off Highway 17. And then he said he would dump bodies at various places in the swampy areas further inland, near towns like P.D. Finley Dog, Bluff, and Ketchup Town. And let's see what else. But anyway, he swear out that he had dead bodies in the swamps all the way through. Now, when it comes to his victims, he said he had done everything to his victims that you can think of, from burning them with acid to running cables through the body and hanging them to fill in their orifices. But anyway, with him doing all of this, okay. Oh, here we go again, guys. Hold on. River, it's no one out there, buddy. Trying to record. No one out there. There you go. But anyway, he also talked about his victims. Now, he would say that after running the cables through their bodies, he would hang them in trees, fill in their orifices with this molten plum bomb, where he's getting up the way that means exactly it was lead. So he would take this lead, he melt it, and he'll put it inside of these people, which is like crazy. And then he would talk about how they would die too quick. So he wouldn't do that ever again. Anyway, then there was a woman named Jennifer Bianchi. Well, he used a syringe to fill the woman full of Drano. And so, that being stated, it just showed how twisted this man really is. So, with the 170, so to give you an idea, from the same man, Pee Wee Gaskins, with a 173-mile stretch of road, he starts his killing spree from 1969 to 1975. Okay, that is a 6-year span. He said he killed 3 by Christmas in 1969 already, and then in Final Truth, he alternates throughout between saying he killed an average every 6 weeks or around the 10th of each month. For some reason, it was always around the 10th of each month that he started getting the bothersomeness. And when he would go out, it was basically near whenever he was looking to pay out his rent or looking for his rent check. So this is just wanting to tell you this is what this man is saying. But that's a lot of dumping for that long. But anyway, getting back to this story. Now, most of these women that he said he was targeting were people he basically thought were not going to get missed. Trying to clear my throat. So here's another one that I murdered that was at least half fantasy. But they began in 1970, and that's when Pee Wee was 37 years old, with Patricia N. Osbrooks and Janice Kirby, his own niece. Now this one is real, according to Pee Wee, because he ran into Janice and Patricia one night at a local burger joint, where he found Janice had drunk and drank a few too many beers. She passed out and stuff with the girl. Were with they asked if Pee Wee could Pee Wee could take care of her, and he was obliged. So again, Pee Wee offered to take the girls to get some coffee. And when he did, Janice puked all over herself in the car. So Pee Wee offered to take her back to clean herself up. And that's when Pee Wee said he made a decision, again, trigger warning, guys, to rape them instead of taking them back to his house. He took them out to an old rundown tenant house that he knew of out of the country. And he lured the girls into a false sense of security. Then he pulled a knife on Janice, putting it up to her throat. But the attempt failed when Patricia slammed Pee Wee in the back of the head with a 2x4. All right, and the two ran out the woods. However, Pee Wee soon caught up. He fired a shot in the air and led him back to the house. But the girls weren't done after another struggle. Pee Wee knocked out both girls to this pistol, rendering them both unconscious and half dead. And that's what he said. He decided he had to kill them. Now he said, we're going to see, yes. And this is that you're going to say here is true. This is what shows normal serial killer thinking. Anyway, after he did this. So anyway, we're going to wrap this up now for here. We're going to go into further talking about what he did to his nieces. So anyway, I'm going to finish it up. So after knocking out the girls, Pee Wee left Janice at the house and locked Patricia in the trunk of his car. And then he went to a vacant home. He knew of that had a septic tank and somehow managed to get the cement lid off the top. This is what he said he did next. He planned to crack the skull open to make sure she was dead, but he decided that would make too much of a big mess. So he just lowered her into the sludge and waited until, waited until there wasn't any more bubbles. Did not push the cement lid back in place. So anyway, that way he put the bodies in the septic tank. And we're going to end from there. Guys, thank y'all for hanging out with me. We will definitely try to finish and give y'all the next story next week. Again, please listen to the podcast, support us, make a comment, and rate us. If you can't rate us 5 currently right now, just rate the podcast. Anything helps. But till then, good night. I love you guys. Again, this episode is dedicated to my great grandmother who would have been alive today. She would have been about 94 years of age. So God bless her for being my strength, my biggest cheerleader. So anyway, please like, share, and continue to subscribe. We out.